Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Hi there. I'm so excited for this show today. So welcome to Tuesdays with Audra, everybody, where we have a live stream show. So this is live, it's not recorded, with individuals and business owners, just to get an unfiltered and unscripted look at what they're doing on the day-to-day to move themselves and their businesses forward. I'm your host, Audra Fournier. I'm a certified professional life and master business coach, and really just a lover of all things of the mind. I'm just a curious person, which is why not fill that curiosity with people and see what they're doing. I'm joined by the multi-talented Chrissy Souders. She's our producer. Thank you for being here and doing this with us again today. And so she's going to be kind of in the back scenes, making sure that we get your questions answered. So really, ever wonder what it's like to be a sales rep for a major wine and spirits distributor? How has this market been hit by COVID? Let's get these questions answered. Traci Hilton has been in the industry for years in one of the most iconic cities in America. She's in Nashville, Tennessee. So bring on your questions and let's get them answered. Hi, Traci.
Hello.
Hello. So give us your title and kind of a backstory of what you do.
Right. So I work for a family-owned company in Middle Tennessee, based in Nashville, but we are our company is in the entire state of Tennessee, called Best Brands. They're in their third generation, family-owned company. And I moved to Nashville here to take a job with Best Brands. And I've been with them. This is my 12th year. I've been in different divisions. I started out in the on-premise division, which is bars and restaurants, because that's where my background was. And then I moved over to the independent retail side. So through the years, I've sort of specialized more in the eclectic, natural wines, organic wines, biodynamic wines. Those are sort of my favorite ones to talk about, but I sell the entire book. I also sell a little bit of beer, but wine is really where the knowledge and the passion is.
That's awesome. And as I know you, this is the perfect thing for you. It's a perfect match for who you are. And normally we bring business owners on, but I really think that being an independent sales rep and your position, it's like you're running your own little mini business within a business. So talk to me about why you got into it, why you were attracted to the position, and really how you've made it your own.
Right. I do think being a sales rep, you are running your own business within a company. So, I have my own customers. I have, a big book of wines. I have to sell it where I think it's going to work. The passion comes from, really, I think it stems from my degree is in art history. What do you do with an art history degree? I guess you sell wine, but my mom was also a history teacher. And I think I'm really attracted to stories and real wine that comes from real farmers tells a story, whether it's multi-generational, whether it's the history of the area that the wine is grown in or the history of the grape. And that ultimately is what really attracts people to wine, is if you've got a wine with a story, you can put a real person and a real place behind it instead of just a label, then that is going to win every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And since most wineries are multi-generational, there's a legacy that goes with that, and a growth and a history story. Yeah, I think that's such a beautiful way to put wine. I just really like to drink it. So, right. And I love to sit down because I'm like, ooh, that looks like a really nice bottle of wine. And you're like, but you don't understand. Like, there's a whole history and a family behind this, which really brings it to life, and that you're, taking part in that family's legacy. And that's really cool. Mm-hmm. So what would you say has made you, before COVID and all of that stuff, really successful? What is the most important part to you about building your business?
Well, really, the first thing that comes to mind, whether it's pre-COVID, during COVID, are relationships. I've had many sales jobs, and I can tell you a ton of stories where your relationship is the one thing that's going to win over your competitors. Showing up, answering the phone, showing up every week. If someone calls you, call them back immediately. If someone emails you, email them back immediately. Knowing that your customers can count on you really works when, when our city is thriving and we're doing great and life is really easy, but it really counts when things have taken a turn and we all have to pivot. Knowing that you're the rep that they can call and that they're going to show up either with a case, a car full of wine that they need at the last minute, or a customer needs a certain kind of wine. It's really just basically down to relationships.
I can understand that. As a business owner myself, my customers are important, but my vendors' relationships can be even more important, which is why some business models, which I think they should, consider vendors to be part of your customer base. So it's a segment. We build those relationships because they're the ones that help us thrive as well. That's awesome. Sure. So what effect has Corona had on your industry? And then we'll get into kind of what you've done to pivot your business to maintain those relationships. So how's the industry?
So who knew in this COVID-19 world that I would be an essential employee? I mean,
you're so essential.
Nurses and wine reps are essential to this COVID world we're living in. But I think that things have changed. Well, to start off with, our company in particular, literally 2 weeks before the whole country shut down, my company's office and warehouse was hit by a tornado. So yes, so for 2 weeks, my company had to basically rebuild an entire wholesale company in 2 weeks. So and a lot of the restaurants and bars got a double whammy. So they got hit by a tornado, whether you were hit directly or not. If you were in those neighborhoods, you didn't have power for 2 weeks and you rolled right into COVID-19. So a lot of Nashville really got a double dose of bad news. Now it's changed just for COVID because of the hurt that restaurants have had. It's been a sort of a shift in the structure of how we sell. The restaurant industry here and everywhere has taken a real blow. But then you see that retail stores, independent retail, grocery, things like that, have seen an uptick because people are at home, they're ordering online, they're, instead of shopping or going out to eat and enjoying wine, they're just bringing that bottle home. So where it looks like sometimes, oh boy, it's business is booming. Well, you have to look at the other side of the coin and know that restaurants are hurting. So the retail side is really having to make up for that loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that even here locally, I've talked to some restaurant owners and trying to collaborate to find ways to get food items delivered to people at home because, they're in restaurant dining is down considerably. So really trying to figure out how to still get to their target market, just in a different way. Which brings me into, give me some examples and some things that you've done to really maintain those relationships, but pivot your kind of sales approach. I know that you've done some really cool things. And so I love this.
Well, you do. I mean, we're all pivoting. So a couple of things. I have an organic grocery store that's also a restaurant. Well, the restaurant side, no one's coming in. So you've got to do takeaway meals, family meals that are wildly successful. But because they have a little retail side to their business too, I said, look, let's get together. They totally revamped their online ordering system, and they placed in their food pairings for the takeaway dinners. So instead of just going, okay, well, I'll have to find a bottle of wine to go with this. No, they've already made it easy for you to just click whatever the pairings are. So I help them. They say, this is the food that we're going to put out. And then I help them pair that. And then it's just an easy click. So that's been really successful for them. Now, it's different for retail stores because, you know, pre-COVID, what I would be doing as a sales rep would be going inside the store. I would be sampling wines with them. So we would be opening a bottle, tasting wines together. Once I got the wine in the store, then I'd be putting shelf talkers up to let the customers know what the wine tasted like. We'd be putting displays up. We would be having in-store tastings. All of those things have gone away. So no one's doing in-store tastings. We have to think of safety first. A lot of my customers, retail owners, don't want to taste new wines. They've just kind of put a freeze on what they're buying. That's where relationships come in. So if I've got something that they need, they trust me now to say, this is a good fit for you. Trust me, you should bring this in. It's going to work. So what I had to do was look at not just my customer, but my customer's customer. Because those are the people that used to just come in and peruse and pick out a wine themselves. But now they're at home and they are having to figure out these new ways of having to order through, you know, Drizzly or through the store's independent online ordering, or just calling them up and asking for something. And they're sometimes not even allowed in the store. So what I started to do is, one, I started to increase my Instagram footprint. So I started going in the stores and posting, you know, what wines I think are great right now, where it's available, why I think you should drink it, food pairings and things like that. So as I go around town, people see a picture, they have the information, they can go back to my Instagram, go to that store and go, this is the wine that I want. Another big thing that I decided to do, because a friend of mine was like, you should really do a wine tasting. I love all of your information and your IG stories. Can't you do something for all of us to taste the wine? So I've just finished last Friday, my 12th week of a Friday night Zoom call. So I have a group of folks. I send them a DM. These folks in Nashville. Now, if you live outside of Nashville and you want to participate, you totally can. It's harder to find where those wines are, but we can find that style and you can participate as well. And I send out the DM on Instagram on Monday. They have all week to get the wine. And then on Friday night, we sit down. I've given them food pairings in advance so they can go out to their market and pick up whatever meats, cheeses, things like that they want to pair specifically with that wine. Or sometimes we do 2 wines. And then we talk about it. I talk about everything from not just that specific wine, but let's talk about the region. Let's talk about the history behind this area and why it's so famous and what great varietals they allow and things like that. That to me deepens the understanding and the meaning behind the wines. And I've started to see from these Zoom calls now in my 12th week, it's sort of a butterfly effect. You know, there's some that just, I start to notice the orders come in a little faster. I start to notice they're telling their friends if they really love it. Or if I send them out to get the wine of that week, I notice that they're still continuing to buy. Oh, well, I really loved that 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐿. I'm going to go and buy another bottle of that too. So the sales continue. And you know, what's the harm in giving people the knowledge to not just go, oh, I'm at the grocery store and this, you know, $15 bottle of wine looks cute. No, now they're armed with the knowledge of, oh, I recognize that area and I know those grapes. And it's been really fun to watch people's knowledge increase. They're becoming aware of where their wine is coming from, how their wine is made. And I've also, and I'm going to do this even more in the future, I've had some winemakers. I've had one winemaker in particular on with me, which was a huge hit. That was a lot of fun. And I'm going to have a couple of those in the future. So it's been really fun. And especially when we were really deep into quarantine, it was nice to really have something to do on a Friday night.
Oh my God, there's so many things that I want to say about all of this. First, I follow you on Instagram, and so I will screenshot a couple of the wines, and then I'll go to the store and see if I can find them. And if I can, I like scroll through and see if I can find something similar. So it certainly is a resource that's, really evergreen. So it's there for anybody that wants to go back and look, I'm kind of looking for something that might be like this. And your Zoom has grown. You're up to like, what did you say? Like 25 or 30 people on your Zoom call talking about wine?
Like on a low day, it's, 12 to 15. But I was at the beach last week and we did it from like a beach edition. And we had about 25 people on. And the week before we had about 23 to 25 people on learning about 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐿 from northern Spain. And
I love the idea of you having, the owner on, and back to telling that story. So you're creating a story, which people remember stories faster than they remember facts, statistically proven. So you're deepening that story. You're deepening the connection that they may have with the wine, the winery. So even if it's not the particular type that you had suggested, they now know the winery and have a emotional relationship with that. So then when they go to the store, they're more willing to try something in the same, vineyard, but a different style.
Right.
So you're developing trust. So then they trust your opinion. You're connecting them with the story. We all feel pretty good when we drink a bottle of wine, but we feel even better knowing that we're contributing to the family that started it. So I love that idea. And so can I be included on your DM to join in on Wine Fridays? I pretty much really love that. And if I can't find the one that you're doing because it's local, then maybe you can suggest something that's.
Yes, I've done that before. I've done that before with folks, friends of mine that are in Georgia or Florida or North Carolina. And I go, look, just go to your local store and ask for this.
Yeah.
So if you're drinking wines, not only do you feel, if you're drinking wines of good quality, not particularly expensive, but good quality, you're not only feeling good about supporting small farmers, but you're also feeling better the next day.
Yes. Because as we get older, that recovery period takes a little longer.
That's right. There are some wines out there that it is not just fermented grapes. There can be lots of yucky things inside, and commercialized yeast and things like that. So, some of these I like to call like gimmicky wines. They kind of don't know where they come from. It's just out there with a cute label and an aggressive price, but I suggest
and an aggressive marketing strategy that just tells you that you should have it even though you probably shouldn't.
Right. Famous people that drink it, that sort of influence you to buy them. I try to because it can be really overwhelming to go, well, I don't know how to pick a good bottle of wine. Because for most people, drinking wine is just a recreation, but for me, it's a vocation. So you've got, so I suggest to people, if they have little knowledge of wine, but they really want to choose something that's of good quality, that find a local bottle shop. Find something that is an independent, not a giant conglomerate. Find an independent local bottle shop. Go in there, make friends with them. Tell them what you're looking for. Because if they're anything like me, and we're all kind of the same, we love to find good wines and impress you, usually for not an expensive amount of money. We just want to find like, ooh, this is super fun and small. And what happens is usually when you're finding wines that are organic or biodynamic or just not these like, mass produced wines, what you're doing is you're not only helping the small business owner in your community, but then you're helping the small farmer in wherever, whether it be California, Italy, France, Spain. You're helping that guy whose sole income is just that couple of 100 acres that his family owns. And when you've got something like that, you're usually going to be really kind to the land that you own. So it's sort of three-tiered. You're supporting local, then you're supporting a small farmer, and you're also being eco-friendly at the same time. and you're feeling a lot better in the morning too. And if you start to get with that small bottle shop, then you start looking at the importers. Who are the people that are bringing these in? Usually those are the guys that have really good, if you like something and it's well made, usually they have a whole portfolio full of those wines. So then you can start following them too.
Yeah. And we do have a few really great small wine shops here in Tallahassee. And I know people that love wine like to talk about wine, so they're more than happy to share, their thoughts and feelings about, what are you looking for? What kind of flavors do you like? And that kind of stuff.
Totally.
Yeah. So how has since you've been in this industry, how's it really kind of changed or morphed over the last few years?
Yeah, it's changed. It's hard to not see everything that's changed from COVID, but it's changed for us because, we got wine in grocery stores a couple of years ago. But also at the same time, if we sort of take COVID out of it, for the restaurants in Nashville, from the time I moved here until now, it has been a real rebirth in the restaurant community here. When I first moved to town, there was, I could probably count on one hand the amount of quality food and quality service that you would get in town without it being a chain restaurant. Mm-hmm. But now, my gosh, pre-COVID, you see chefs from all over the country that want to come in and get a little piece of Nashville. They want to open up a place. There's something happening in this town that people really identify with. They feel comfortable here. And there's a lot of really good growers, producers of agriculture around. And we saw a huge change in the last, 5 to 8 years. Now, my favorites are still the ones that were the originals that have been around. And, my husband and I have really made an effort to try in this time to really support them. Like at least once a week, say, okay, what independent restaurant are we going to go and support and pick up the food and bring it home? Mm-hmm. Goodness, you should take advantage of these amazing restaurants that usually you would never be able to enjoy at home. And you can pick it up and eat it in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah. Yeah. And the industry as a whole, over the last, 10 years, it's just like blown up. Like there was, a select few, more than a select few. But is that because that there's so many people getting into the industry, or because, we've had the opportunity to import a lot that we kind of weren't able to reach before?
For wines?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's a complicated question because, I think as this next generation, the previous generation, the boomers, bless them, they love expensive wines. They want like California 100-point expensive wines. And I've noticed that, as the millennials come in, they don't really care a lot about points. They care more about what their friends think. If their friend likes the wine, they care more about getting back to a natural type of wine, real wine. They're interested in where the producer comes from. And and a lot of that comes from overseas. A lot of that comes from
old world wines.
Old world wines. Yeah, from France and Spain, of course, and you're starting to see a little bit of a price increase because we just had to absorb a 25% tariff in October, and we're still under a threat of increased tariffs from European countries. Mm-hmm. So, we have to be on the watch for stuff like that. Yeah.
We do have a question from Anissa. She says, I love wine, but I have a terrible allergy or intolerance to impurities. I'll get a headache after one glass of a poorly made wine. My suggestion is, does organic mean it will have fewer impurities?
Yes, I would suggest make sure you're hydrated before you drink. A lot of the times people go, oh, I feel so terrible. And it's because we're just not hydrated enough. Two, I would seek out organic and biodynamically made wines, especially ones that have certifications. And you can check on the back of the label if it's a biodynamic wine made in Europe. Demeter is the name of the certification there. There's plenty of certifications for organic wines, but for organic wines, you're not going to find any additives. And that to me is like the very basic, like, let's get down to who's organic, who's biodynamic. Those people are not spraying with pesticides. They're not adding any additives to increase flavor or structure. You are getting grapes that are naturally fermented and put in a bottle. So that's where I would start.
I just wrote that down.
Yeah.
Demeter. Okay. Very cool. What are common misconceptions that people have when they, like, let's say, walk into the store or the grocery store? Kind of the top questions that you normally get.
Common misconceptions is the biggest one is that wine has to be complicated, that in order to know what to get a good bottle of wine, it has to be very expensive. It does not. To know a lot about wine means that you have to be super snooty and hold that knowledge above everyone else and hoard that knowledge for yourself and not share with others. There are some great wine shops in town in Nashville that I've experienced people say to me, oh, well, I really wanted to shop there, but I'm kind of scared. Like, it seems really intimidating. I'm like, they're the nicest people in the world. Like, these people are passionate about finding, it doesn't matter if it's a $9 bottle of wine or you want something really nice and it's $100 bottle of wine. They want to find the best wine and in that price point. For me, it's like solving a puzzle. Like, okay, you gave me the parameters of where I need to work, and now I'm going to find the one thing that's really going to blow your mind. And you're
going to want to buy a case of it because you're going to want it every night and you'll never.
Right. The days of just like snooty, expensive wines and expensive, Psalms. And I had no. Wine should be fun. Wine should be shared. And it's a common misconception that people think it's too complicated, and it doesn't have to be.
That is good to know, because I have been overwhelmed in the store, just like looking around going, I don't even know where to start today.
Right. Well, if you're in a grocery store, I always suggest looking at the top two, because it doesn't get super expensive at the very top of the shelf in grocery, but the quality sort of goes up as you go up the shelf. So I always say, if you're in a pinch and you have to buy in a grocery store, just go to the top tiers, the top two shelves, and search there. But I always have to support my local guys.
Yeah, of course. Do you have a favorite style of wine? I mean, I know that you love them all and for different reasons. So I'll just give you a scenario. It's a summer afternoon on a Sunday, and you're sitting out in your backyard just enjoying a pleasant afternoon. What would you drink?
Well, asking me what my favorite wine is like going down the biggest rabbit hole ever, because it depends on the day. It depends on what we're eating. It depends on who I'm with. It depends on the time of year. But if we were sitting outside on a hot summer day, dry rosé is really where you've got to be. It's a craze that has happened over the last decade that I welcome, because it's a quality product that was also misconstrued for a really long time as being something that's sweet, because there are sweet things out there. But man, they've been making dry rosé. For example, there's an area in Rhone called Tavel, Tavel.
Right.
Now, they can only make rosé. They don't make white. They don't make red. They only make rosé in this area, and they have made it for centuries. So for them, that's not a gimmick. No, that's a way of life, and they have kings of France that have declared it, the best wine in the world. So rosé isn't
good enough for kings of France. It's certainly good enough for me.
So it's not an old concept, but it's one that I welcome in popularity.
Awesome. This has been so much fun. So my random question is, because I already know the answer and I think that it's fun and it's relative. How did you meet your husband?
How did I meet my husband, Brent? So Brent and I
I adore your husband.
Yes, my husband and I work together. He also works for Best Brands, and we met at work. He was out of town when they interviewed me, and it was for his division. So he came back from vacation, and they're like, "Surprise! You have a new sales rep. She starts in 2 weeks." Which kind of worked out because he didn't interview me. So we worked together for maybe like a year before we started dating. We would like not get along at work, and we used to fight a lot, and people would think that we were a couple, and we're like, no, we're not a couple. And they're like, oh, they fight like they're a couple. And then I moved to the same neighborhood he is, and we started hanging out, and we started dating, and they should have known, because then we stopped fighting at work. That should have been the key. But we didn't know if, both of us are really passionate about what we do and the company that we work for. And we were really scared that one of us would have to leave. So we kept it a secret for about 9 or 10 months until finally we were like, okay, this is serious. We got to come clean. So
we're going to have to tell the boss.
Yeah. We told the owner of our company first, and he was more excited that we had kept it a secret for that long than that we actually were dating. And, the owners of our company were at our wedding. And that's the thing, is like, they're a family owned company that we work for, but we're a family within the family. Mm-hmm. So that's how we got together, and we've been married now and for 7 years. And we have a 5-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old daughter.
And they are spunky. And I swear one of these days I'm going to come up just so that I can see your wine cellar, because 2 humans put together that have a passion for wine and spirits, I can imagine it's like, honey, this extra bedroom, we're just going to have to turn it into a cellar.
Well, we have turned our unfinished basement into our cellar because it stays naturally cool there. It's primitive. It's pretty primitive, but actually in the early stages of quarantine, I said, that's it. I'm going down there. And I spent all afternoon, just hours moving wine around and organizing everything. I just feel better when things are organized.
I know. It makes us feel a little less chaotic, doesn't it?
Yes. So it's all put together now, and it's all organized. So you can come and visit whenever you like, and we'll share some good things with you.
Yay. All right. So I want people to be able to find you or follow you on Instagram, or if they want to partake in your Zoom meeting. So what are some good ways that people can locate you or get in touch, or if they have questions or anything like that?
Yeah, the best way is to follow me on Instagram. This is my work Instagram. It's Ms. 𝐒𝐫𝐿𝐴𝐶𝐫. I know that looks like a very overwhelming word, but millésime is French for vintage. It's one of my favorite French words.
Oh.
So just follow me at Ms. 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐶𝐫, or look me up under Traci Hilton, and follow me there. I like to post a lot about the wines that I'm drinking, wines that I'm selling, where it's available. And sort of my mission statement for this Instagram is that I'm only going to post the things that I would drink myself. There's no gimmicks. Sometimes you read articles and you're like, oh, I can see who paid for this article here. No, this is truly from the heart, truly what I want to drink and what I'm passionate about and where to find it. And honestly, if you're, even if you're in North Florida, if you have problems finding wines, I have good relationships with suppliers, so I can always send them an email and go, hey, where can I find this in Tallahassee, Florida? And 9 times out of 10, I usually get an exact answer on where you can buy it. So I just, in general, like helping people drink good wine. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm so glad that, I know you, because I like to drink good wine too. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's been so wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing with us, guiding us through those weird, awkward moments in the store going, I have no idea where to turn to next. Everybody reach out to her. She's so full of knowledge, obviously. And so thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you, Christy, for doing our back of house production. Make sure that you like my Facebook page, and other social media platforms. I'm also on Instagram. If you have any coaching questions, wine questions, please reach out to either one of us, message or email. And join us next week for Tuesdays with Audra, when we're going to have another business owner or professional on. And so that's our episode for this week. Thank you, Traci, for being with us.
Thank you, Audra.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.